Hey class, this is just going to be a quick tutorial on some lighting tips and techniques. I'm going to be starting here outside, and so it's a pretty sunny day in this situation here, and so I'm going to have my subject face her back toward the sun, so that it's on her back and shoulders, and so that none of that direct sunlight is going to be hitting her face. And here I'm going to take an exposure, and I'm exposing for her face. And it looks pretty good, but you can see her shoulders and the background and the top of her head is a little bright. In order to reduce that exposure and to add a little bit more light, I'm going to fill with a piece of foam board here. I've really brightened up her face a lot, and I've added some good shaping with the new light source. So here I've had her move to this table, which is already adding some really nice fill light from that bright sun. And we can see again that we're getting her face nice and bright. But to make that even brighter, I'm going to add a little reflector here, and that's going to let some more light come in and fill that face so I can reduce the exposure and make the background a little more normal. So here I'm going to show you how to deal with direct sunlight. Normally you just really don't want to shoot in direct hard light like this. You can see it doesn't really bring out the most flattering light or shape to the model's face. And so what I'm going to use here is a pop-up reflector that actually doesn't have any reflectiveness on it, but is transparent and allows just a little bit of light through. And we can see in the final picture here that it really adds a great softbox kind of effect. Comparing it here to the hard light, it's really giving the model a more even complexion and a much more pleasant look. So moving inside, a window is a great way to use natural light in a more controlled manner. Window light is normally very soft, but it still is very bright that allows you to get a good exposure. So in this example here, I've had the model turn so that a little bit of shade is still being cast onto one side of her face, and that just helps to add a little bit more drama and a little bit more depth to the portrait. But next, what I'm going to add in is a piece of foam core and a little reflector here so that we can fill in those shadows. And you can see what I'm doing here is I'm moving that piece of foam around and just looking at how it's interacting with the light and how we can reflect light back onto our subject's face. So here that I found a position that I want, I have an assistant holding that board, and you can see in the image that we're really filling in that right side of the face. And here is that image without the foam. So here's a little comparison. The right image has the foam added in as a reflector, and the left image does not. You can see how the right image just, adds a little bit more brightness and a little bit more evenness to the light. Either one is okay, but it's a great technique to try. So here I'm going to show you about different kinds of lighting that you can do indoors. What I'm taking this first picture of is just kind of the basic overhead light that is existing in this room that I have. You can see this lighting is really harsh. It's not really creating a very flattering look for our subject, and you can see the hair in particular is really becoming flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to a side lighting situation. I have this little lamp sitting around that provides a nice amount of light, and so just moving that light to the side helps to add a little bit of contouring and a little bit of shaping to the subject and add a little more dimension to the hair. What I'm going to try next is actually using that same light but bouncing it using a big piece of foam core. I'm turning that light around and essentially creating a very diffused and big light source. So here I'm having my model hold up a gray card so that I can take an exposure reading and a color reading. I highly recommend you get one. You can find those on Amazon. So I'm going to take an image here with this new softer light. And you can see that this is really adding a lot of brightness. It's really softening up not only the subject, but it's throwing some nice soft light onto the background to keep that even. And we're at a really good place now. I'm just going to add a little more pop with a flashlight just over on the left side of this image. You can see it here reflecting onto that side of her hair and her shoulder. I'm adding a little bit of texture by having that shadow come through the hair. And you can see we've got, a really nice looking final image here with just a simple piece of foam and a flashlight and, a lamp that I had lying around. I was able to create a really dynamic and well lit portrait. So here you can see a comparison between our starting off just overhead light that was existing in the room versus, our more considered and with just a little bit more effort, we were able to, make an image that had a lot more pop, a lot more usability, and a lot more depth. So that's it. I hope these tips were helpful for you, and good luck on your portraits.